more consistent as time goes on. We are on the Buffelshoek boundary, as we call it, so the northern boundary in terms of where we can go. In terms of animal behavior, obviously they can go anywhere. It's all open. There you can see a nice long road ahead of us. Slowly making our way back towards Moyetela Dam or Gauri Dam, Djuma Dam. We're going to go look around a bit for those ellies, the elephants that came past when we were with Rahina. Maybe we can find them. And I think we had a couple more Rahina questions since we're driving and there's not too much going on yet. Let's see what Susan was asking. Hello Susan, nice to have you on safari with us. Observational question, I love those. Susan is just wondering why were those Rahina alone? Because she's always seen them in packs or in clans. Well, Susan, it's just because that female came back specifically to suckle that youngster. That little cub is still very young, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, somewhere like that. He needs food, he needs his milk, and she came back to feed him. The rest of the clan could be in the area looking around for food, still foraging. It's nice and cool, overcast weather, so it's great weather for predators in general. And if other predators are still active, meaning lion or Rahina, wild dogs, Rahinas could also still be active to hunt themselves, but they also know other predators are out and about. So it's an opportunity for them to find food. So they probably are doing their thing. There could be 1 or 2 adults down in the den as well. It's not impossible, but I would probably say not this morning, just considering conditions. So she came back to give the youngster some food, and she'll spend some time in the den just bonding as well. It's a very important part of most mammals being raised is the bonding between parents and youngsters. So she'll be doing a bit of that as well, as we could see them playing earlier. Randy, you're just asking, at what age do the youngsters start eating meat, and at what age do they leave the den? Well, they start chewing on things pretty early. I mean, the adults will bring back bones and food to the den, and they'll start chewing on it, but they suckle from the mother up until 2 years. But as I mentioned, they've got incredibly rich, high nutritional milk. Obviously that's important for the growth of the youngsters. They also get very strong bones, extremely strong teeth, extremely strong jaws. So the milk is very important. But I would say from a few months onwards, they're starting to supplement their diet. But it's not that they need it for survival. It's more just that they obviously start getting used to it, start practicing those jaw muscles. They don't get strong by just being there. And then they leave the den. Well, I mean, that youngster was already leaving the den, but staying very, very close. In other words, it's a bit like being at home for your child, and it's playing in the garden, but it's not going outside the garden yet. It's just sort of the periphery of the safe home. So that happens from weeks, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, as we've been seeing. But then that other juvenile, from a year onwards, year and a half onwards, they start moving with the clan as well. They have to start learning the bigger area, the bigger behavior, clan behavior. I thought I saw something there, but I wasn't. Oh, it was something, but it was just a log. As you can still see, very grey, very overcast, heavy cloud. I think there's a bit of this kind of weather predicted for the next few days. We shall see. Another question. Hello Lisa, nice to have you on drive. And as I said, we'll talk a little bit more about Rahinas, and then we'll get closer to the waterhole and see what's going on there. Lisa just asking, are Rahina cubs blind when they're born? Also referred to as artificial when they born like that. You get precocial birth, which would be like impalas, where they precocial, they already developed by birth time. They can run around and so within minutes or seconds even. Rahinas are pretty much like lions and leopards, where the young ones are very, very vulnerable. Just this sort of, I hate the word useless, but colloquially you could use the word useless, I guess. They can't do much yet. They can't see much. They can't move much. The first couple of weeks they're sort of just flopping around and crawling around, and then they start getting stronger and more confident to move around and so on. So same with Rahina. welcome to the drive. Gavin is 8 years old. Gavin, you'd be our first official question from, are we going to go with this a bit with Hayden's catchphrase of Operation Wild Child? It's something that he's passionate about and we're going to definitely share in. And basically, Gavin, we want other kids like you to be on drive and to get into nature around us, and also get into nature around your place, whether it's just outside in the garden or when you go walking with your folks in the park. Hey, look at that! Shame, this hippo certainly can find a better waterhole somewhere, but for now this will do, I guess. It is nice and cool, it's not like it's hot and sunny. I'm guessing this is the same hippo that we see in the waterhole all the time. Gavin, so your question, how old was the older one of those two young ones, so the juvenile as we would call it? I don't exactly know. I would be guessing about a little bit over a year old, in that region. VM, if you guys sort of got consensus on what you think the age is on that?
Beginning of this year?
Beginning of this year, yeah. So 11 months. Let's call it give or take around a year old. And Gavin, in some ways you could compare it to you maybe. I would say that's probably the equivalent of a human at about, maybe a little bit younger than you would be, but 6-7 years old, something in that region, where it's getting big enough to start exploring its world around it, but he's not going to go far and sort of out hunting yet with a group. Very similar age, Gavin, to Jack. Hayden's boy is 9 years older. Let's see if we can roll a little bit closer, give you some close-up views. You don't often get to see a hippo like this out of the water. For instance, the nostrils. Look at the nostrils, they're like valves. They can open and close. There they open, there they close. Looks almost like another eye. And that's of course important for when they're in the water. As they go under, the nostrils can actually close up and seal, no water getting in, and then when they go up to breathe, they pop the nose open and they go that typical hippo sound where they go as they leave the water, the nose to blow the water out that might be there. Then they breathe and they can go under again. That's so cool. Just a little mud stop along the way. And hippos, again, typically we see them in the water. Those of you that have been on many drives, you always see the sort of the top 20% of a hippo. I often imagine hippos with like really skinny, scrawny bodies and these thin little legs under the water with a big piece sticking out. But as you can see, the rest of the hippo looks like the top as well. It is quite a big, bulky animal. And yeah, great to see them like that. Then we move into the bush. Hippos can be a little bit grumpy is the wrong word, but unpredictable when they're on land like this. So we're not going to try and follow it. It's most likely just going to run away. Just look at that. Gone pretty much. You can just see the tail end. And my point there is just that if a hippo can disappear like that, imagine how easily a lion or a leopard could disappear. But that's why we look around, that's why we track them, that's why we stay alert to anything that might happen, and that's no better place to experience that than being on foot. And you're going to have a little look at what's going on there. Maybe ask Brent a question, ask him what he thinks. Who was first, the bird or the egg?
So these leopard tracks are proving a bit perplexing, and I hear you just came across a hippo in a mud wallow with Peter, and Peter's 100% correct, very unpredictable, especially if you find them in those little water holes, not in a big water hole where they feel safe. So they do feel quite unsafe quite often in those situations, and you always have to be alert. At the moment we've walked through this whole block where that leopard looked like it might be stalking, where the tracks went off, and the tracks are really hard to see. So we're seeing if he did a once over on us and actually came back down this way. And we've just, at the junction of these roads, is quite a interesting little thing. An animal we've seen a few times, but not as many as we would like on the live drives. It hasn't been freshly used for a while, but what we have here is called a civet tree. If I sit down next to the civet tree, and obviously being a civet tree, it's made by civets, so it's a collection of a civet dung, quite old, all of this, and also been broken up nicely by the rain a bit so we can see what's here. So if we have a look down here, we can see quite a few little beetle carapaces, quite a few different species, definite dung beetles in here, quite a lot of dung beetles actually, and also looks like maybe some longhorns. Difficult to say when you're just looking at pieces. And a civet is a bit of a predator, so that's why I'm using a stick to sift through and see if we can find there's some wing casings, and also one of the more interesting, this is nice and old, so I know it's quite safe to pick up, little millipede segments. So civet is one of the only mammals that occurs in southern Africa that is able to eat millipedes. Quite often from eating all the detritus and different plant species that they have, they get a poison called hydrogen cyanide, and civet have a special amylase which is created by their pancreas that goes into their stomach and actually breaks down that poison into unharmful things. So one of the few animals that is able to eat millipedes, or mammals, sorry, that is able to eat millipedes. So for one last quick look, mostly beetles and millipedes. There might be, there's a few pieces there. Aha! Those are the only ones I can see from that. But I'm going to let you guys try to figure out what this is from. See, there we go. See if you guys can figure out what animal this is from. And remember, send your questions through to questions@WildEarth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So while we're finished with that civetry, we're going to head down the road a little bit and try to see if that leopard hasn't bamboozled us and actually not gone to the north, whoopsie, as we originally expected, but headed further to the south. So normally we've got two very different types of bushwalks that we do. One is a sort of a bumble, where we'll go through the bush looking at all sorts of things like the civetry. But today our main focus is tracking big cats. So unfortunately, when that happens, one of the places big cats like to walk is on the roads. It's like a really big game path for them, and especially after a lot of rain, they are not so keen on getting wet grass in their faces and lots of dew, so they quite often like to utilize the roads. There's a nice little bit of soft sand coming up, and I'm hoping we're going to find that perfect, beautiful paw print of the male leopard. And at the same time, being on foot, it enables us to listen far more carefully for any alarm calls. And there's a strong possibility that this leopard might have had a successful hunt in that storm last night. But from this, we're going to go to baby making with James under the microscope.
Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing? Are you hearing me now? Yeah, we have sound. Do we have sound? Right. Sorry everybody about that. Right. we had these two millipedes, and they were in fact mating with each other, which was fascinating to watch. They were coiled in a state of abject passion. They now, of course, are a bit shy because they've just been caught under the light of this microscope. But look at the way the millipede moves. Same thing, well, you saw the shell of the one that Brent was looking at, and this is something called a worm-like millipede. They eat a lot of dead, dying plant material, and that's about all, really. They don't seem to have much of another kind of function, and unfortunately they have completed their mating. And what happens is that they coil around each other. They coil around each other. Here, we'll just put them on the table for you here. You can have a look at them there. They coil around each other, and they exchange a spermatophore. That's what they call the sperm of the males, and the female will then carry them, and eventually, will eventually lay a whole lot of eggs underneath the dry leaf litter, and they'll hatch into baby millipedes. Now, unlike the insects, they don't seem to go through anything like a larval phase or an interstar phase, where or metamorphic phase, where the adults don't resemble the youngsters. In these, they're born as little millipedes, and I think they add segments as they get older. But it's just astonishing that the number of different species living here, we hardly know anything about them. We know that they eat a lot of plant material. We know that that's basically all we know. And they've got cyanide in them, and things like civets, which Brent was showing you there, can eat them. But other than that, we know very little about them. Fascinating things. Right, the other thing we've got here for you is a snail. Now, we're hoping desperately that this fellow is going to come out of his shell. But let's have a look there, and you can see close up what the giant land snail looks like. And we've been doing a bit of reading on giant land snails, and we know that they live for 10 to 15 years, and they eat also normally plant material only. And we're just going to leave him on the desk here for the next little while and hope that he pops out, because if we can get a close-up for you of his unbelievable tentacles, two of them with eyes on them and two of them he seems to use to sense things to eat, they will be great to show you. So we're going to keep him on the desk here and hope that he sticks his little tentacles out just now. Alright, let's go back to Hayden. He's got a couple of these things. They don't look quite like that. They look much more alive than that particular one, so we'll see you just now.
Came around this corner here, folks, and beautiful herd of bachelor herd of buffalo. Could be the same ones that we started off with this morning, and they've just crossed over the road. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle so we're sort of in amongst them. They're very relaxed with us, but there's some absolutely magnificent specimens here. Just big boys with incredible horns, and that boss, that big bulbous helmet like that. Look at this boy up here. How beautiful is he? There's a prime buffalo bull there.
Been for sound there for a second, so let me just find myself. There we go, we're missing that. But we are also busy testing our rain cover, so that's actually what we're busy with. We had a few drops. In fact, I can see 1 or 2 drops on the lens, I think, but let me have a look there for you. Don't worry, you'll see against. There we go. Awesome. We are testing our rain cover. That's why you see the dashboard. Yeah, I can't see my monitor. There we go. This is covering all the gear in the front. We've got radios here. That's the monitor so that I can see where we are. We've got cameras and first aid kits and all kinds of stuff in the front. But this is all obviously running with some kind of power, some kind of electricity. So that covers it for the rain. We've got a cover around here, which I must not figure out how I'm going to fit into this, but basically we're covering all the gear in the back, which is sort of spaced out in different areas, the battery banks, because without this you can't get on the safari with us, and without you on safari we can't do this, and we all like doing this, so we're going to keep doing it, and therefore we need a rain cover. So we are playing with it a bit, seeing how it works, and apologies for not knowing you were joining us again. I plugged myself out. Sorry. So let's see how this is going to work. The important thing is, we're pretty sure it's going to work, because it rains. It is still beautiful to be out in the bush, And let's see if we can make a little. Here we go. And the good thing about us as humans is like other animals as well, we're designed to be waterproof. Our skin is waterproof. So if it starts raining, it won't start swelling up, look like a hippo after 2 hours driving around. We are fine, but a lot of people don't enjoy being on safari in the rain because they get a bit cold, they get a bit uncomfortable. Some people don't mind and they still have a great time. I've done a lot of game drives in the rain over the years. Obviously if it starts raining heavily, I'll put a little raincoat on as well. So we're just planning and hoping, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work, to have ourselves out in the rain. Hello Ronald, welcome on safari with us here with Wild Earth in South Africa. Sabi Sands Game Reserve, Djuma Game Reserve, Arathusa is the other reserve we're in. Sabi Sands is sort of collective reserve, if you want, compare it to like New York. And Djuma and Arathusa would be different suburbs of that, so areas that you can sort of move around in where we are. And Ronald, you're new on Drive with us, so first of all a big welcome. You're going to meet lots of great people on the vehicle with you. And Ronald's just asking if we get giraffe here. Yes, we do. We can find giraffe. We will find giraffe. Maybe not right now, maybe not this morning. But as the drives go along, Ronald, I'm hoping and I'm sure you'll be back for more. That's the great thing about safari, because you never know what's going to happen next. We could find anything. We could turn that bend and there could be a leopard walking down the road. But also giraffe, zebra, buffalo, wildebeest, impala, those are all things we've seen this morning other than giraffe, hyena. We've seen great leopard over the last few weeks. Wild dogs have been active, lion, elephant, all the big animals that you can hope to see in Africa, that you can dream to experience. They're all here. We're in a truly wild place, a truly wilderness area. The Greater Kruger National Park, of which we are part of, is twice the size of Yellowstone National Park, just to give you a comparison. Of other game reserves, other wild areas, an amazing habitat, amazing ecosystem, and for us to have a little window into a part of that is a rare privilege. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Question out of Dallas. Hello Miss Jen. Asking why do I think, or why are leopards drawn to Sabi Sand? It's not so much that they're drawn, but why are there so many leopard in the Sabi Sand? Various reasons, and keep in mind this can also fluctuate and change over, not daily, but over time frames. Over a 20-year period you will find sections. We were talking the other night with Stefan, there'll be time periods where there's higher leopard density, and then you might have a few changes in habitat and raining conditions, drought conditions. And that might change a few things, and that could change the prey species dynamic, and that could change the predator species dynamic. So there's been stages where the lion density is up again, and that would influence the leopard density. So lots of things influencing it, but Ms. Jen, in short, this type of habitat where we're driving through now, especially this area of Djuma, you go further south in Sabi Sands, down towards places like Mala Mala, Singita, Landalozi, they're down towards the river itself, high leopard density around the riverbeds as well, or the bigger rivers, the Sand River in this case. But it's to do with the habitat. We've got a lot of this sort of, I mean, just looking around as we're driving, it's thick, it's lush, you've got lots of trees, lots of bush, and that's great habitat for leopard. For them, it's a good place to hunt. They can hunt impala, warthog, all your sort of medium-sized prey species. That's brilliant for them. It's also very good for raising their young, very important. Lots of hiding places in the riverbeds and so forth. So, good place to find food, good place to raise your young, and that means good leopard density. And very important third aspect to that is the fact that Sabi Sands is a private game reserve, Djuma, Arathusa, that's why we can go off-road, we can follow animals, there's never high vehicle pressure. We normally try and keep it, well, if we can, just one vehicle, but often 2 vehicles, 3 vehicles at the most. So never will there be more than 3 vehicles at a sighting, except if it's something exceptional. We'll sometimes say, listen guys, this is, you're watching something amazing here, like we had with those wild dogs last year around this time during the hunt. Then we'll get other guys in because it's just this occurrence that's so brilliant. But typically 1 to 3 vehicles maximum on sighting, so that's good in terms of the intimacy of the experience. But don't bother them at all. Many animals, in fact, like that young hyena cub we saw back there, he's going to grow up seeing Land Rovers and 4x4s and safari vehicles. So for him, it's just part of his environment, and therefore you see them a lot as well. So to come back to high density of leopard, but you get high density of leopard in some other parts and you don't see those leopards because they're shy or elusive. Over here the leopards behave normal. If there was a leopard walking down the road now because the grass is wet from the rain, it wouldn't run away when we approach. It would just keep doing what it's doing and we would be seeing it. So the fact that we can see them plays a big role as well. It is an amazing place, guys. I mean, there's various game reserves in Africa, but Sabi Sands is at the top end of good experiences. Genevieve, beautiful name. Also from one of my favorite cities. We were speaking about it earlier. We've got lots of people from New York on safari this morning. Guys, very big welcome from the Big Apple, or to the Big Apple. Another thing we talked about just last night, we were chatting about, and I was talking with Molly as well, it wasn't last night, yesterday on the way to the airport, saying how great would it be to go do a game drive in New York. We take the Jigger, that's the nickname we have for this vehicle. It means the vehicle that can twist and turn and sort of zigzag through the bush. Take this Land Rover, take it to New York, and we go drive around there, and that would illustrate your question, Genevieve. You asking, and all the time and years I spent sort of looking at and trying to understand animal behavior, has that given me some interesting insights into human behavior, and most certainly, in fact, the reason I love wildlife, one of my sort of niches, if you want, one of my things I've always found interesting is behavior. I'm really into behavioral aspects, to see what's going on, interpret it, you know, get knowledge about it, but also just learn to understand it. And certainly, if you can do that with animals, you can do that even more so with humans, because Genevieve, as you know, we are humans. We can talk to each other in various languages, English being a choice for the safari for us, and that's something that I've always found interesting. And also the live safari, what we're doing right now, the kind of communication we're experiencing, is something I'm very passionate and very excited about as well. This is an amazing way for us to communicate like this. So Genevieve, I'd almost like to ask you, if you're on safari with us during Big Cat Week, any of those drives, the prime time drives can be quite intense because it's only an hour, lots of things happening, but we're also going to do 7 2-hour drives, which will be in your morning time New York, or afternoon time. I would love you to ask that question again, because I love that answer, because it illustrates so many of the points that we do out here. So love that question. Speaking of asking questions and looking for things and all that, I'm not going to say too much more, I'm waffling now. Enjoy the walk. There's something that might excite and maybe even frighten a few of you. We'll see you back in a bit.
So in our endeavors to find this leopard, we have come across something we don't see too often. It is a shell, but it is really, really, oh, excuse me, leathery. It's almost like a cross between cardboard and leather, and you can see whatever was in it has escaped and is now being born. I'm probably going to guess that this is a snake shell, a snake egg shell. It is definitely a reptile. Reptiles have this very distinct sort of leathery shell casing, and if it had been a tortoise, they have a probably a bit bigger and round, a very almost perfectly round shell, with snakes tend to be a little bit more oblong. But very, very interesting little piece. And I'm really excited to get this back to the tent, because James will probably be able to have a great look at it on the microscope. And while we've been out on walk, we've collected a few things that we're going to try and get to James before the end of the safari. We've been tracking right on our eastern boundary, so we might get there a little bit later. We still have to walk back to our tracking vehicle, and then from there head back towards the tent on quarantine clearings. But before you leave, we've got some other stuff around us here, and I noticed that as I picked up the shell, and we've got a beautiful, beautiful little flower, and this is a different one. So we see 2 different Commelina flowers here, and the blue Commelina is the far more common of the 2, and this is a Bengal Commelina. You can see it's slightly more delicately shaped, and I always think they almost sometimes look like little elephants with the ears and the tusks. and the trunk. Not always, sometimes there's a few too many moving parts, but these bottom ones to me look like nice big elite trunks, tusks, sorry, and obviously the big ears. A beautiful little one, and again something I think James would have quite a good time at looking at. Imagine that. James has this under a microscope already. So let's go have a look at the minute detail of a commelina.
One Commelina bengalensis to another Commelina bengalensis. Here we go. We have a picture here of exactly what Brent was looking at. The wandering Jew is its common name. Why it should be called that is anyone's guess. It doesn't seem to wander a great deal, nor does it appear to have any religious persuasion whatsoever. Right, let's have a look at it. That is the wandering Jew under the microscope there, and beautiful. You can see the pollen, glorious yellow color of the pollen anthers carrying the male spermatophore. So, just to keep you in the loop, if you've forgotten your biology from school, that yellow spermatophore, the pollen, is the male part of what travels in the wind or on an insect vector, probably on an insect vector in this particular case, to another flower where it will be landed on the stigma, which is the female part of the flower, and that will then disappear down, and a new flower will be, or the fruit will be formed, and then a seed, and then of course a new plant in the new season. So that is the wandering Jew. If we come back to my little desk here, which is a source of great fascination, because there is an enormous amount being collected by a huge team of collectors, professional collectors, in the way of, I'm just looking at them now, they're all grinning at me like Cheshire cats. They've been wandering around quarantine clearings finding bits and pieces. They include the inimitable Stefan Winterboer, Louise Povard, and of course Eugene, who, while he wasn't fixing the satellites, has been finding things here. His contribution's not been a strong one this morning. He managed to find a fork stolen by a hyena. That's all he's managed to find so far. So, have a look now. That, everybody, is the sting of a shiny, burrowing scorpion. And you can just imagine getting pucked, as they say in Afrikaans, by one of those things. Apparently not very venomous, but these are the guys. I think Brent was looking at the shells of a scorpion, and the shells of that, not a scorpion, the shells of a millipede. The shells of that millipede could well have been deposited, I'm not sure exactly, I think they were a civet in Brent's case, but the shells of a millipede are often found outside the burrows of this particular scorpion. But what is so interesting is the hairs, and also the size of the sting, and the fact that the sting is so sharp. How on earth the scorpion maintains a sharpness there? I mean, this is a very sharp thorn that I've just stuck into your picture there. That would go into your hand with a great ease. So the sharpness of the scorpion sting is infinitely more than even this great acacia thorn. And this particular piece here, that there, is the venom sac. That's where the venom is. It's not a very venomous scorpion. It's got pretty large pincers, but that will still give you a nasty little nip. And look at the hair on it. I mean, that hair is just astonishing. What it's there for, I can't imagine, but look at the hair. Right, so that is the scorpion. And we also had a moth or butterfly somewhere around here, but I'm just going to retrieve it. Here we go. Carry on. Now, a very good question from Country Gal Ash here. While I try and get a picture on this Burnet moth here, Country Girl Ash, you want to know why we can't touch hyena dung? We can. We shouldn't, though, because it's full of muck. So, because in the digestive system of a carnivore, Burnett is not very happy. We're not going to, I don't think we're going to look at him with a microscope. He's very unhappy. He's coming to the end of his life cycle. Anyway, Country Girl Ash, the digestive system of a carnivore is such that it's extremely toxic. We've got toxins in a carnivore's dung are far more than they would be in a herbivore's dung, and that's because the amount of nutrition or nutrients when you eat meat are that much more, and there are a lot more toxins in it, and therefore the dung is a lot more toxic. It's actually okay to touch it if you don't, but you then got to be very careful about washing your hands. So that's very important. Now, right. So we're just going to have a quick, this is what I was looking at here. You can see the Burnet moth. I think you're going to probably get a better look at them on the bushwalk with Brent eventually, but we're going to release him. You can see the scales of his wings are coming to the end there, and yeah, he's going to probably pass on. They're very short-lived. Right, we've got a skull just like this one that we're going to go across to Peter and have a look at. And Debbie, you want to look at a piece of the skull under the microscope. I'll try and set that up while you're with Peter, and then we'll come back and have a look what it looks like under the microscope. See you just now.
Well, we happened to find a buffalo skull here driving along the Mulwati riverbed. Exactly what James has just been telling you about. It's fascinating to see things on a smaller level as well, from the big things to the small things. This is a old buffalo skull, old buffalo female, in fact. Just looking at the bosses, those sort of shields on the front of the head, and you can see a lot of the keratin layers, that sort of fingernail-like covering of the horns, has been broken down now by these larvae. There you can see those little, looks like little dreadlocks almost on the horns. It's exactly what James was talking about. There's a little bit left of the horn sheath, and then just the hard bone. As I said, we're in the riverbed. So I'm just listening to the game drive there. Some lions up in the north. Those lions are too far north for us, but it's just good to know where they are. Hello Millie, from Utah. You know, there's a little village out here, the second village from the boundary of the reserve. Not far, 10 kilometers, 5-6 miles. A village called Utah. Second village after the first village, that's called Dixie. Got a few American names for some of the villages in this area. Millie, you're just asking what have I been doing. Sorry, I'm not looking at you, but I'm just looking around. This is Twin Dams area, Great Leopard area. We heard some squirrels alarm calling just now, so I'm going to make sure we don't miss something. Millie, just asking what have I been doing since I was in the Sabi Sads last. This is about a month ago, just over a month ago. Been back home. This is busy season as well in Namibia. That's where I'm from, the next country on the west coast of Africa after South Africa, so southwestern Africa. It used to be called Southwest Africa before called Namibia since 1990. We've been very busy. In fact, my wife Alicia has been very busy. We had a very, very busy yesterday, busy day today as well, with the boat safaris, Mola safaris, what we do there, and I've been doing some dune tours as well, 4x4 tours in the dunes, which I obviously enjoy a lot with the Land Rover, so that's also good fun. And yeah, just been living and working and enjoying life. We've got 2 kids. My son started walking just before I came out here, Ragnar. And yeah, just doing those things, the things we do in life, the things that make life a beautiful experience. Family, friends, work, sleep, food, all the things that you guys enjoy as well. Raining, even though we did get our rain cover out. It's partly just a test, but why I'm thinking of that is I just felt to drop it 2 again. So there's a little bit of sort of random drops falling down. I think we will get some rain again today. In fact, through until about the middle of the week, Wednesday, maybe even as late as Thursday, we should have a bit of rain. I'm sure we're going to have 1 or 2 big storms as well. And if it goes the way it's looking now, we will have lots of rain in the next few days, but then we'll have dry weather for Big Cat Week. It should be brilliant. Also means we're going to have beautiful nature around us. Obviously cats are what we're going to be looking for, but when it rains a lot, you've got water everywhere, and with that all the insects and the bird life and the young animals that are being born, just lots of excitement. So a beautiful time to be in the bush, summertime in Africa. speaking of being around and looking around in the bush, Hayden's doing the same as what we are at the moment, sort of looking for something. So enjoy the ride with him. Please say hello to him from me as well. And we'll see you back here in a bit. We've got a little bit of, what, about 40 minutes left, so anything can still happen.
Well, it's been a little rainy in spots. We just put a couple of covers on. We lost signal a little bit before, so I missed out on sharing that little bit of buffalo action with you, but I'm coming back around now to see if we can see them. But Sherry from Ohio, how are you, Sherry? Great to have you on board this morning. And Sherry's question is about leopards and sort of turf wars and territories and densities. There's not, the turf wars don't seem to be as heavy duty as what lions are, but predominantly because leopards are solitary. So you might get two males coming over and crossing over into their home ranges and having an altercation, and can happen with females as well. But it's not as intense as like those lion wars that you see. Leopard density is also dependent on food availability and space. There's some densities that are quite incredible, animals living very, very close to each other, and then animals that have home ranges of 40-50 square kilometres. So it really does tend to be about food availability and historical things, and then there's also those factors or external contributing factors like human encroachment onto habitat and what pressure the animals have to live on top of each other sometimes. But remembering leopard are the most adaptive cat in the world, feeding on anything from small crickets and lizards and small mammals up to big ungulates, big hoofed animals. So they're an incredibly adaptive cat. Wonderful how they can fit into so many different ecosystems and habitats. But definitely haven't seen anything this morning. Even I think Peter was talking about some tracks that he picked up on or heard from. But it is a bit quiet this morning, but the great thing is, we've got all these different things happening, the walk and the tent, and the small things really matter as well. And I hear that there's been some really amazing, wonderful action going on in the tent this morning, which is great to hear. And I'm just going to pop my head around here. These buffalo were just walking along this little drainage line here, and if we can catch up with them again, they were feeding. And when you do see them grazing, it's a great, this herd is so relaxed. I just thought we might try and give them another go, but we lost your signal, well, you lost my signal, sadly before. They're just down in here. We might not be able to get that close now. But there were some striking looking bulls in there. Wow. I think I should stop. Operation Wild Child reporting for duty. Elizabeth in California. Fantastic to have you on board, Elizabeth. 5 years old, and what a great question. Are African buffalo related to American buffalo or bison? Well, you know what? They are. Down the track, I think, millions of years ago when the earth was all changing and all the different parts of the world were moving apart, different fragments or different sections of that family that the buffalo are in. It's a really interesting word. You might use this down the track, but it's a big word. It's called bovine family, B-O-V-I-N-E, and that's the family of cattle, wild cattle, including our domestic cattle, the ones that we see in a paddock near your home or when you're driving through the countryside, all related in the same sort of family. So it's a great question, Elizabeth. And there's buffalo also that occur in Asia, very different looking ones as well. But yes, they are related distantly, but they're definitely related, Elizabeth, and fantastic to have you on board, our first soldier in Operation Wild Child. Fantastic to have you, buddy. Santa Barbara, that's a fantastic thing. You've got an initiative that's happening in North America as well, no child inside, and I think that's beautiful. It's a beautiful sort of thing to have, and these sort of things are happening all over the world. We've got these buffs here again, so I'm just going to gently come up to them. But a great initiative to have these operations, or these things that we can get kids outside. It is scientifically, I'm just going to pull up. There's a nice one just here, Bri, as well. But I was looking for one particular bull. There's a couple. We'll just park ourselves down a little bit further. It's all right, my friend. It's okay, buddy. Just trying to get Brian a nice shot. Oh, here we go. Here's maybe if we... no, you're going to walk on a little bit. They're going down into this drainage line, which is a bit tricky for us. I'm going to back up a little bit, but just back to that those initiatives that getting kids outside. It's if we can stimulate you guys to get outside and explore your world a little bit as well, after you've watched Safari Live, of course. Oh, they're just being a little bit elusive at the moment. There's a couple over here, Bri, that are going to probably walk towards us. So I'll just park off here. There's one boy just through there. They're a little ways off. They were really close to us before, but they might walk onto us a little bit as they're grazing. And they're just grazing through on this beautiful fresh flush of grass that's come through after this dump of rain that we've had. And the rain still sort of haven't settled in as much as we would have hoped. A lot of the dams, as we were talking about before, are still quite empty, but it's imminent. It's imminent. There's no doubt about it. You can feel it. We got a few spots of rain before. We had to stop and put the rain covers on, but that individual there, just sort of standing between that vegetation with a lovely set of horns as well. In this particular herd, there were some cracking bulls with big sets of horns, and they've got those fantastic grinding molars, the massive cheek teeth that these animals have, and as they've got a really broad row of incisors as well. There's a couple more up to the left there, Bri, that are grazing towards us at the moment. They've got a prehensile tongue as well, which allows us to really get amongst that grass. So as they get closer, we'll have a little talk about it, as you can see it happening. And what it is that those fantastic cheek teeth and that broad row of incisors gives them ability to feed in all different grass lengths, and they can use that prehensile tongue to rip off big bunches of long grass. They're very efficient feeders. And I was just sitting there before, just as I lost you, and they started to browse on some vegetation as well. So really good adaptability buffalo, but predominantly grazers, and the foliage will be, enjoying that grass. So Janine, great to have you on board with us this morning, and a lovely question from you to know whether my son is out here with me. Well, he's not at the moment, Janine, but in just after Big Cat Week, my wife and my son and some of my friends from around the globe are joining me down here, and we'll be spending some time on Djuma and staying for an extra 5 days. So I'm very excited. He's never been here before, and I'm really, really excited for my boy to be down here and being able to experience this beautiful place. So thank you, Janine. You never know, if the guys are driving around on drive, they might bump into us in the vehicle, and we'll say hi, I promise. Very excited. This bull, so thank you for your question, Janine. Great to have you with us. This bull here has had a bit of a knock, and then you see this quite often, where they lose a horn, break a horn off in a fight, or a bit of a scrap. you can imagine you've got some really great behaviour that you see when two bulls are coming into contact with each other, and that they sort of stand head to tail and do this wonderful walk around each other. And it's a lot of posturing and carry on before they actually do engage, but when they do engage you certainly know about it. It's a broadside sort of approach that they have with each other, and when they connect you really hear it. It sounds incredible. But at the moment these boys are very relaxed and just feeding and doing a little bit of browsing through here. As they get closer you'll just start to see those lovely tongue sticks out a little bit. You can see it wraps around. Might see if he does it a bit closer to us. Hello my boy. He's just going to walk straight across in front of us here. He's definitely been in the wars, that boy. Beautiful. Coming quite close to us. He's about probably 15 feet away from us just here. Just walking past. Giving the obligatory sort of look at us here and there. But you know what I'm going to do now, because that's a great little place to change over and link to the guys in the tent. And I think James has got actually something carrying on from Buffalo for you. We'll see you just now.
Hello everybody. Deb, we have decided to show you the buffalo skull as we promised, but while we were doing that, the most amazing thing occurred. Now I'm going to head across straight to the microscope, and you will see living in this buffalo skull is, oh dear, I had the focus so beautifully, there he is, an unbelievable sighting of a spider. I don't know what kind of spider. It's got some beautiful blue eggs. Those eggs are tinged just like gin, I suppose. So we'll call this the gin spider. I mean, have you ever seen a more subtle and gentle colour than that in the bush? It is just absolutely spectacular. Look at the colours on the spider, and the eggs in that sack are just unbelievable. It's living in the eye socket of this buffalo. So let's come back to the buffalo skull now, and you can see exactly where it's living. There is the eye socket of this long dead beefalo, and the spider is just inside there. I'll shine a bit of light in there. There you can see him. Isn't that amazing? Discovered it completely by chance. Unbelievable. Now, I actually think, Tebs, I think that camera did a better job of looking at the top of this than the microscope did. But we'll have a quick look with the microscope. I'll try and focus. There we go. All right. Yeah, that's quite a nice shot there. Okay, so there's the microscope, Deb, picture of the top of the buffalo skull, and you can see the splinters and fragments of bone that have come together, and well, they did come together, and now they're starting to split apart, of course, because slowly this skull will rot away into the dirt. Now, I used to think, of course, that fossils were a kind of bone, but they aren't. It's a kind well, I'll explain it actually when you get back. It's a bit of a longer experience, and rather than waste your time with that right now, we've got Brent sitting with a lovely herd of zebras. This will be great. See you now.
So we moved from where we were on the eastern boundary tracking leopard, and we parked our tracking vehicle down near the Moati Drainage, and we decided to walk up towards quarantine. There's always a good chance. You can see there's some impala and some zebra, and the zebra were lying down till the impala came dashing out. The impala go check. But we can see there's two zebras lying down in this cold, windy weather. But we've collected the whole at the tent. So we're going to move on a little bit. I'm just going to wait for a few seconds. So while we move, we're going to send you across to Peter, and hopefully we'll find something more before we get to the tent.
Welcome back. We've walk on the sort of edge of signal there, so breaking up a bit, but nonetheless fantastic to see zebra, or zebra I guess, depending where you're from. So we learned with the alphabet here in South Africa, which is more sort of a British English if you want. You learn the alphabet and it's X, Y, Z. And now you guys learn it X, Y, Z. So zebra, zebra, potato, potato. You all know what you're talking about. Let's look at this bird quickly. Just nice and close. It's not great light for it. This is a starling. You get the glossy starling and you get the Birchall starling. Both of them can fly, and both of them normally fly away when you try and show it. Just saw him. He's just sitting there singing. I'll probably be able to listen to him. We are just really enjoying it. I mean, I was just in that very happy space that one goes into on safari, on game drive specifically, where you don't actually worry anymore what you see or what you find next, because it's all beautiful. Just driving around, hearing the Franklin call, it's nice cool air this morning, seeing how wet the soil is, knowing how grateful this environment is for rain and how beautiful it's going to be over the next week or two. Let's just watch that Franklin. They don't fly away as easily as the starlings. I just noticed a little bit of sort of mating behavior. The male, for a few seconds there, had his feathers all puffed out and his wings came out. It seems they're back to normal again. These are Natal Franklin. Can you just make sure about that? Actually, yeah, Natal Franklin. One of my favorite birds in the bush. Alarm calls in the mornings, sunset chorus in the afternoons. Often alarm calls also for predators. You can sometimes find leopard by the assistance from those guys. Yeah, all in all, just beautiful to be out there. And I was just thinking how fortunate I am and we are to be able to do this. Thank you. I will say this many times over the next few weeks. Coming up to Buffelshoek Dam. Now, even though it's wet now, you might wonder why we're checking waterholes if there's water everywhere. But keep in mind the animals are still creatures of habit. They will still go past familiar places, waterholes. And on that note, we're going to go back to the walk. I think you'll be able to hear them better. We'll see it probably just before the end of drive.
So those zebras moved off. We're on the edge of quarantine, but I think they've gone just behind this nice big termite mound. And there's HT. He's also around here, so we can say hello to HT. And Brian, I think, under all that cover. It's very difficult to tell the cameraman when it's cold and wet. But we're going to try see if we can sneak up to the zebra quickly. We're just going to pop up. There's a nice big termite mound ahead of us. And then, oh, there they are. So they're directly behind the termite mound. I don't know if Andre, you want to show quickly. You can just see a head popping out over the termite mound. And now we're going to try. There we go. Oh, we've been spotted. The game is up. And the impala running around in the background. Looks like they're just playing. Because if we don't show any predatory behavior, so if we don't skulk around, there is a possibility we're going to be able to walk closer to these zebra. The most important thing is not to walk straight at them. We're going to walk in an oblique angle from them. So to show them we're not trying to hunt them. And they might not run, so they might stand there and watch us. So we're going to make our way to the marula tree, and probably about 40 meters between us and the zebras. And I think they're more interested in what the impala were running from. There we go, as you can see, while his back's turned. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Got caught. You hear that little snort? And you can see they're quite relaxed. We're not displaying that predatory behavior, just a little at us before walking off. And there we go. We're going to let them move into the bush. We're going to start slowly making our way towards the tent. And James, the tent is probably 200, 300 meters from us. We can have a look. You can just make it through the trees over there. And let's go see what James is up to. But while we're walking across there, we've got a question from Tutu in Las Vegas, and quite an apt question since we're on such an open grass area here. Tutu is wondering, what is the difference between a grazer and a browser? So if I was a grazer, Tutu, Well, let's get a little bit closer to this bush before we do that. As a grazer, I would only eat grass, or almost exclusively grass. So some nice fresh new shoots like this would be ideal. And quite often we just dust the sand off. These new fresh shoots, obviously the roots of the plant are trying to put as much nutrients in it to get it to grow as fast as possible. There's quite a lot of sugar in it, so quite a lot of starch. And that's what the grazers are after. And that's why often they're dung, and of course there's not dung around us now, but it is very dark. It's from the starches that make it very, very black. And you can actually taste the sugars. It's quite sweet, these fresh grasses. Certain grasses taste better than others, and the animals know that as well. And even when a lot of us are out in the bush, we'll actually pick a stalk of grass and chew on it, and you get a wonderful sweet flavor. And those are the grasses that a lot of the grazers prefer. However, if I was a browser, I'd come here. This is not a great browsing tree. So even then, as a browser, I wouldn't go for these big mature leaves. I'd probably go for these smaller, fresher leaves. This, Jean-Andre is getting very close to me because he knows I'm going to chew this leaf, but I'm probably not going to enjoy it nearly as much as the grass. And especially this one is really not a really good, the tannin is almost bitter, and you get this very sort of, your tongue sort of sticks to your palate. So even if I was a browser, this is possibly only a species I would eat if I was under a lot of pressure. So in the dry season we did see elephants and giraffe feeding off. This is a large fruited bush willow, not a great eating tree. If you have a choice, you go for things like buffalo thorns and acacias, much sweeter, much nicer. So while we continue to meander towards the tent, let's go see what Mr. Pretorius is up to.
Hello guys, welcome back. I just want to have a quick look at... Oh no, just look way down the road. There's two people walking. I thought perhaps it's the guys from the walk. And I knew they were not on the road, obviously, because they were looking at zebra and chatting with you. There's a guy from the anti-poaching, I presume, just checking for tracks. Very experienced, very good at it. Helping to look after the area. So being on Game Drive is great, isn't it? You can learn new things all the time. I mean, I always thought a browser was something like Firefox or Internet Explorer, but obviously there's other contexts to that as well. We'll have to find some kind of a grazing tool. Hey? What do you think about that? So like internet grazer. Good idea. It's great to be on foot, and it's so lovely to be on foot because you can look at not only small things. I mean, we often talk about obviously small things, birds and insects and eggs and so on, but just the way you sort of are tuned into your environment, your sensitivity to nature around you is a beautiful experience on foot. The biggest change at the moment for us by far is all the different water aspects to things. The fact that we've had rain recently means there's now lots of fresh puddles everywhere. And Cheryl, that adds into your question as well. Cheryl's from Colorado, which is a state I believe is absolutely beautiful with lots of water. But there was a question earlier, and Cheryl, your question now about the riverbed we just crossed through. How often does water flow down that? So how often does it get water in it? In these big storms, if you get big rain, the water that floods away or flows away would be going down those riverbeds, which is why we call them drainage lines. They help to drain the area of flash water or flood water. As well as Buffelshoek Dam, there was a question earlier about the quality of water. The dams that sort of held the last of the water before the rains now, that water becomes quite foul, but you know, dirty water is still better than no water, and obviously animals have adapted to be able to drink water like that. And keep in mind, it's, I always, when I take the kids to the dunes and they get dirty, I always tell my wife that it's clean dirt, you know, it's clean sand, it's different from dirty dirt. And the same with that, you must realize that even though the water could get a bit dirty, it's still clean water. In other words, it gets dirty from dust and mud and maybe animals messing in it a bit, but it's not contaminated. These kudus here. Hello Jane. That's a good thought. In fact, I think lots of good thoughts are going to pop up with this microscopic view we've got of things. Just to be able to see things on a little bit more of an intricate level is very interesting, because often how things tie in on a small level is interesting how it fits together on a big level, if you know what I mean. But Joan, you were just wondering if we'd be able to get a sample of that water and have a look at it under a microscope. I think that would be interesting to see what's in it. But yeah, it's very interesting how it all ties together. I'm talking about my family a lot this morning, because having you guys in the vehicle, many of you are friends of mine, many of you I even think of as family to an extent, certainly as the Wild Earth family. But I'm missing my family a lot this morning, maybe because it's Sunday. My wife Leisha and my 2 kids. But why I was thinking of my wife now, one of the reasons, is she's a molecular biologist actually, so she understands things on that very, very small level, and it's interesting to talk with her in terms of how she sort of ties the small things and the big things together sometimes. And that's what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. Great to have that tool available, great to be able to show you that sort of view of the world as well. We might be breaking up a little bit here in the dip, so I think we'll probably cut away shortly. If not, we'll continue on, otherwise I'll see you in a bit. So enjoy the microscope, see you in a bit.
Hello everybody, in this little bucky here, come and have a look here, Tibbs. We've got a centipede, and now he's called a large centipede, and it's part of an order. In fact, that's going to be better than the microscope. Let's look there, I'll just shine the light on him there. It's a whole order of them, which means there will be hundreds of different species of what we call large centipedes, and they are voracious predators of frogs apparently sometimes, small birds even, not this one. I mean, the bird would have to be microscopic for this centipede to eat it, and even other kinds of, probably this one's eating invertebrates for the most part. They can give a rather nasty, painful bite, but it's not dangerous to human beings. It's just an irritant more than anything else. Right, so that's a centipede. Now, country girl Ash, you wanted to know how big they get, the centipedes, and then how big they get compared with millipedes. I've seen lots of millipedes around here, roughly that size. So, how many inches is that? That's about 6 inches in length. And then centipedes, I have seen one centipede that big once, but that's very uncommon. I think the biggest millipede I've ever seen is probably about that big, which is almost half a foot long. The largest centipede I've seen is about that big. So in this part of the world, I suspect that the millipedes get slightly larger than the others. Right, let's go quickly across to something very exciting.
So folks, here you can just see running off through the bush there a glimpse of an absolute character, one of the most fantastic birds in Africa. Can you hear that? I'm not sure if you can pick it up, but it's the call, it's the contact calls between the ground hornbills. There's 2 of them there, a pair, and they're just feeding through. Oh, but I'm just going to be quiet for a second. Listen to that. That's so beautiful. I'm just going to try and back up to get a glimpse of one of them for you. They just... You got one? Oh, there you go. Brian's got one there. Fantastic, mate. Off in the distance, but we can't get any closer than that. And they'll just they'll move into the thicker vegetation. But there's this beautiful oomph, really beautiful call there. And they do have a duet type of in the mornings they'll make that call, and they'll really contact with each other. Oh, fantastic. They're a big bird too. They get up to about 6 kilograms, which is about 13 or 14 pounds. I'm just going to try and move back a bit, Brian, see if we can just get one last glimpse of them. It's such a cool bird. They feed on all different types of invertebrates and vertebrates and small mammals if they can get their hands on them, their beaks on them, hands even. Just trying to find them, but what a great little sighting. And these birds, they're one of Brian's favourites. He spotted them, and I heard him get very excited then about ground hornbills. He hasn't seen them for ages, he said. Still vocalising. try and get one more glimpse. Beautiful, beautiful black bird, standing about, I reckon about 130 centimeters. I think the books say 130, which is about, I can't see them, bro, can you? In inches, that's probably about, goodness, I'm trying to do my conversions now. 30s, 12, probably about 40 inches. No, I can't see them. You can still hear them though. Oh, booming sound. Up there, just trickling through somewhere up there. Anyway, we had a little sighting of them. Beautiful bird, ground hornbill, and that really beautiful noise that they make, that vocalization. Let me just give you a quick look, guys, just because this is what the great thing about our apps that we've got are. Just whilst you can hear them in the background still, I'll just get this up. Here we go. Here's a picture, and this little app is a fantastic thing to have when you're out looking for birds, and you do find when you've got these beautiful white primary feathers as you see them when they fly. They don't fly for very long distances, but they use that. They can fly to escape a situation or to move a bit further. Really great male wattle or bright red coloration there. This is a picture of a juvenile just here, and then that's a picture you can see in the fully fledged beautiful coloration on that wattle and around the eye there. Lovely long big bill there for foraging and picking up anything from, as I said, small mammals to invertebrates to all different types of reptiles as well. I used to live in Zimbabwe, and a friend of mine hand-reared one of these, and he used to live in the house, and in the mornings we would get up from the night, come out into the living room in the middle of summer, and when there's a lot more invertebrate activity at that time of the year, and they'd all come inside being attracted to the light, and in the morning a lot of those invertebrates, would they be moths or beetles or whatever that had gotten into the house through the evening, it would be all up along the windowsill on the floor, and this bird, his name was Quis, and he used to come in the morning and just have this feast along all the windowsills and eat all these dead invertebrates. But he eventually then went off to the wild. Well, that was a nice little thing to finish on, and it wasn't a lot of mammals around this morning, but I think right across the board there's been some really interesting stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys later on this afternoon. So I'm going to say goodbye for this morning. Great to be back. Lots more to do. Operation Wild Child, we started that, and some lovely birds, and I just look forward to seeing you guys again this afternoon. So thanks very much for having me back, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
So we've made our way across quarantine. We're about to join Tebs and James and Eugenius at the tent. We've managed to collect some paraphernalia while out on bushwalk. Look, James is excited. They let him come out of the tent. Normally he's not allowed to go past the little edge of the canvas. And I'll return his stick to him just in case.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jamesy.
Where did you find my stick?
I'm in the Mahindra.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Here we go. There we go.
Right. Now,
Oh, we've collected some stuff.
yes, fascinating.
So we did a little bit of a scurry around in a civet tree. A fossick, yes. Oh, and then yes, because you had the blue one, I brought you a yellow one.
Pressed version of the yellow one.
Yes,
Thank you,
there we go.
Commelina. The yellow wandering Jew this time round.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Oh, wrong
What are you
pocket.
saying?
There's too many pockets in this thing. And then a reptile egg of some kind.
Okay, shall we have a look at him?
Yeah, that's and very leathery.
Right. What do you think he is?
I don't know. Just judging from the size, I think it might be a snake.
Found on a termite mound.
Very close to one, yes.
Okay.
And I think that could be.
So, Brenty, just put your hat on backwards so that we can see your eyes. You have to do that in here. It's not gangster, it's because the lights are hanging from the top of the roof. There we go. Now we're having a look at this under the microscope, and we'll just cross over to the microscope quickly, and you can have a quick look at what it looks like under the scope. Well, not substantially different from the buffalo skull from this angle, but it certainly is. It is very different and leathery, as you can see, and definitely nothing like a chicken or bird's egg. What kind of? Maybe a monitor?
I thought a monitor, but I'm just not sure. And we did find another one.
Okay, Brent's got all sorts of things in his pocket here.
Yeah, which is also a piece from a different area.
Okay.
But also got that leathery texture. It looks a little bit more fresh. I think the other one's been.
There we go. We've got them under the microscope there. You can see that one too. That's quite an interesting change, interesting difference that they have. I'm afraid my expertise in oothecology
Oh, you're so clever.
doesn't go that far. I don't really know. I would go with something the size of maybe a monitor's a bit bigger than that.
Yeah, I was thinking that's why I thought snake. Whoa, the wind got that little one.
Okay.
The little one could even be a snake or a lizard, but it's so different. It's extremely interesting to see. And
the different
it's
ones.
Quite possibly the different diets.
Yeah,
it has a lot to do with how the eggshells are formed.
Oh, I'll tell you what we did have here, and he's escaped at high speed. But we had a giant land snail. I wonder how on earth he disappeared. He'll be around here somewhere. But we put him next to this tortoise shell, and so we're talking about calcium and the need for calcium out here, which of course would make a big difference to eggshells. But he climbed. You can see. I don't know if you can see there the slimy residue on this on the tortoise shell, and we put the snail next to him, and he climbed up onto this, and obviously started to eat it. Now apparently, apparently he's been spotted.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Wow, that's a
Come over here, Tips. This is unbelievable. Here is the giant land snail over here. Now, it's very important that they eat these kind of things here, because they need the calcium to maintain their own shells. So we're going to leave them here. They will also eat the lime wash on the top end of on walls. They'll eat lime wash on walls. Okay, we're going to have a quick look at one more thing from Bushwalk. What else have you got to show us?
It's the only living thing I managed to bring back. And I'm quite sure, being on quarantine, you've seen a lot of millipedes. Now we have a pill millipede.
Oh, that is spectacular.
Here we go.
Look
So
at this.
slightly different millipede to the ones we see.
A pill millipede. I was reading about them yesterday and very excited. Okay, so there you go. That is the pill millipede. That's fantastic. And they roll up into that ball, of course, to try and protect themselves from danger and destruction at the various predators that are around here. Okay, so we're going to head across to Peter now in the hyena den. A big thank you to Brent on his walk. Thank you, well done. Good job, well done. Thank you, Jean-Andre. Big thanks to Tebs, the ladies in the final control with Alex Voz, the large Russian, and of course to Andrew on the drone, who is standing behind us. He's of course crashed his car yesterday, so he's now just carrying cables. We'll head across to Peter, and we'll see you a little bit later.
Well, what a way to get to the end of drive, with the beginning of a new life, you could say. This little hyena cub that we saw earlier, maybe you missed it earlier on the safari. We were sitting here and this youngster was having a suckle from his mother, who's lying in the front here, and we're at a den, so we should be able to see them quite a bit over the next one. And what a perfect stage to be sharing this young life as well. He's big enough now to start exploring outside, and for us to get these beautiful views like that. Look at that. Oh, lovely. But great wildlife this morning. I mean, those ground hornbills that Hayden saw earlier, very special birds to see. And lots of interesting things from the bush tent, from the walk. All in all, another perfect day to be on safari in Africa. Attacking the branch. Oh, that's just Well guys, always great to get such good feedback. Sleepy has been new on Game Drive with us and saying that he or she, I'm not sure what the name refers to, never realized how awesome hyenas are, how interesting and sensitive they are. And this has all happened since being on safari with us. Always such a beautiful thing, such a nice thing to hear. People enjoying this experience with us, and that it makes a difference, that it gives them new insight into nature and into some of the beautiful and amazing creatures we get to know in this process. Seems we have lots of people from the East Coast. It's of course a good time of the day for you to join us for safari. Andre from Florida just asking if it's unusual just to have one cub. No, I mean you can have two as well, but very often you do just have one cub with hyena. What's he doing? I thought he might be going back into the den. I keep saying he, it's more a generic he. It's actually more likely to be a female cub. But Andre, and for those of you that missed the earlier part of the drive, or maybe this is your first safari, welcome. But with hyena it's very difficult to tell. Male and female look physically about the same. You have to tell it from behavior really. The females will always be dominant. Even a female cub like this would be dominant over a male adult. But we don't care about dominance right now. For now, we're caring about exploring our world, biting a branch and playing with the grass and just checking out everything that's out there to be checked out for this young animal. Oh wow guys, not in our area, but further to the north the guys just found some cheetah. So nice to hear, not from us but from one of the game drives. Guys, it's been an awesome morning. Sorry, we're going over time a little bit. For myself, Peter, it's been great to have you out here. It's great to have HT out here. It's also fantastic to be with the team, all the guys that are out here on a permanent base. James in the tent, Brent on the walk this morning, Scott you will see quite soon as well. The lovely ladies in the control room, thank you very much. See you this afternoon for the Sunset Safari.